Alright, this is a review on Tatsuki Fujimoto's one-shot called Look Back. Tatsuki Fujimoto is an author mangaka, well known for his work on Chainsaw Man and I think Fire Punch. Fire Punch being it's chronologically, in his bibliography, Fire Punch is the work that kind of I think established his career as a mangaka, but then basically, he did Chainsaw Man long after, and that kind of advanced his career further. He kind of got praise from Naoki Urasawa, which is essentially just Naoki Urasawa is one of the biggest mangakas out there, and I essentially have his short story collection Sneeze, and I have I think 4 volumes of his new work Asadora. But that's besides the point. Look Back is essentially just a manga one shot by Tatsuki Fujimoto, and it is unlike most of his works, very emotional and very introspective. I think it is kind of aside from Fire Punch and Chainsaw Man, I think one of my favorites. And it's kind of out of left field because basically I'm kind of an actiony guy. I love punching, I love kicking, I love violence of all sorts, and I love it in comic form because basically unlike real life violence, comic book violence is so cathartic and so cool looking. But yeah, I never really enjoyed emotional works before, so this is kind of a new thing for me. And essentially it starts off with a little girl. Her name is Fujino, and essentially she's kind of a promising manga artist. When she was a kid, she would essentially put these entries in her newspaper. By the way, Fujino is she's Japanese. This entire one shot takes place in Japan. She would submit these little strips to her school's newspaper, and basically her friends would get stoked on her artwork. They would kind of say, "Wow, you could be a manga artist when you grow up." And she kind of contemplates this, I don't know, sitting at a desk drawing all day sounds pretty boring. And it's maybe I could be an athlete, I don't know, something. And essentially she gets called over to the faculty, and she gets tasked with essentially bringing the paper manga slots to Kiyomoto, another student who doesn't exactly go out much. Basically she gets described as just a truant. She can't come to school, but she likes drawing and she wants to try out drawing manga. And essentially she looks at one of Kiyomoto's entries, and there is no story to it, but her draftsmanship is phenomenal. It's almost professional level. And it's she kind of, when she sees Kiyomoto's art, she kind of gets a bit insecure. She doesn't want to be outclassed by Kiyomoto, so Fujino essentially goes hard in the paint. She tries to get better at art. She goes to bookstores, she studies, she constantly draws. She draws and draws at the detriment of her school academic life and her social life, And basically the mangaka of this one shot, he shows this expertly. He doesn't even he kind of he follows the rules of storytelling. He show don't tell is essentially one of the biggest, most simplest rules of storytelling or visual storytelling that we have have as storytellers, but not many people kind of show this. I don't really think this is essentially kind of what most Western comic artists do, but think like Tatsuki Fujimoto like does this, you know, pretty well, which would explain his success despite, I think, like, you know, hard working and perseverance, and I think his weird personality. Oh God, that sounded wet. That did not sound good. Anyway, basically, you know, Fujino starts drawing, but it starts becoming a detriment to, like, you know, to essentially her life. Like, one of her friends, like, starts judging her for it. Like, basically, one of her friends, like, comes up to her and she's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" It's like, "I'm drawing the human skeleton." And basically, the girl's like, Fujino's friend is like, "We're 6th graders now. We'll be in middle school soon." Like, you're gonna draw in middle school too? It's like, Fujino's like, "Yeah, of course I'm gonna do that." Well, it's like, well, the others haven't been telling you, or like haven't been able to tell you this, but like, aren't you getting a little too old for this? It's like, you don't really play with us anymore, and when we're together, you don't even talk. All you do is draw. It's like, if you draw in middle school, people will think you're like a creepy otaku. And an otaku in Japanese culture is essentially just someone who's obsessed with manga and like fiction. Basically just, you know, this even just seeps into her family life, where essentially it's like, her sister's like, "Yeah, mom and dad aren't able to say it, but they're worried about you. You're always holed up in your room. Your test scores are shit. And, you know, it's like, you never, like, spend time with us anymore." And, you know, Fujino's like, "Screw off." And it comes to a point where Fujino decides, "You know what? Screw this. I give up." And she, you know, she stops pursuing drawing, and for a while, and she just, you know, she spends time like with her friends, and she goes to karate class with her sister, and she spends time with her family. She even throws out her like sketchbooks. But, you know, things change when basically she's essentially tasked by the faculty, to basically just bring Kimoto's like diploma to her. And, you know, she doesn't want to, but, you know, she begrudgingly does. And basically, she enters Kimoto's home. She's like just outside her room, and she notices that there are 2 pillars, not like pillars, but like there are 2, like, you know, it's like, you know, let's call them pillars. There are pillars of sketchbooks like right outside her room. Show don't tell. And basically, she like sees an empty kind of like strip, like, you know, an empty like, you know, strip layout template, and she just, you know, she kind of like just draws like a little strip, and it's about Kimoto. It's basically just, you know, in the strip, Kimoto is a shut-in, like the world's greatest shut-in, and like at the end of the strip, it's just inside it just shows like Kimoto being dead. Like, it's just like a little strip, like little strip where she's kind of like making fun of Kimoto for being a shut-in, and then she accidentally drops it, and in a panic, she just, you know, it's like, "I'm just gonna leave your diploma here, bye." And then basically, Kimoto like rushes out of her house, and she's like, "Fujino, I'm one of your biggest fans. I've read your strip since 3rd grade. Please sign my back." And you know, that's when their friendship just starts, and it's a it's a very like, it's a very beautiful friendship, you know. Later on, like they kind of like they become friends. They make manga together. They manage to get noticed by basically an editor at Shueisha. Like things are like, and they kind of like get they get an honorable mention in a manga contest. Things are going pretty well for them. Matter of fact, they kind of like celebrate by going out together. They eat crepes, they watch movies, they like hang out, they talk, they go to bookstores together, and basically it kind of like it ends in this train ride home where Kimoto is like, it's like thank you for treating me today. Like I'm glad for coming out of my room, because the truth was I was scared of going out. I stopped going to school because I was just so scared of people. My social anxiety was that bad. But I had an amazing time with you today. And the reason why I drew is because I had nothing to do at home and I got home bored. But now I'm glad I drew. Thank you for bringing me out my bedroom. And essentially they make more manga together. They have like more fun times together. And it turns out that they're getting serialized. But this is where conflict starts. Kimoto doesn't want to help Fujino out with her manga series. She wants to go to art school. And essentially they have a fight over this. It's like Fujino's like, why are you going to art school? There are like no job prospects for art degrees. And basically Kimoto's like, yeah, I know. You'll have to talk to strangers like a lot. And Kimoto's like, I'll push myself. Fujino basically tries to get Kimoto to stick with her, but Kimoto's like she's just set, like I want to stop relying on you. I don't want to rely on you forever. I want to be independent. And Fujino's like, it'll be boring. Art school will be boring. And it's like, I don't even know why you're trying to go to art school. You can't handle college life on your own. And Kimoto's like, I'll adapt. I'll practice. And basically it's like, Fujimoto is saying like, why you can't even like talk to like the cashier at a convenience store without having like without having like a panic attack. There's no way I'll ever pull it off. And then Kimoto's like, what? But it's like, I want to be a better artist. And so, for a while they split. And this is where things get worse, because I think around January 10th, 2016, essentially there was an attack at an art school. A man essentially just wielded like an axe wielding man came in and like just attacked like 15 people. 3 were like horribly injured, and the other 12 were dead. Kimoto being one of the dead kids. And when Fujino finds out about this, she's kind of like, she's grieving. She's blaming herself for the death of her friend. It's like, it's my fault. If I hadn't encouraged her to get out of her own shell, she'd still be alive. And then she starts just imagining, like, what if Kimoto didn't get out of her own shell? What if she didn't go outside? She imagines like just Kimoto like just going in, staying inside, drawing all the time. Then on the same day where the attack happened, the axe wielding man comes in, and Fujino swoops in like a superhero and saves her. And through that, Kimono's like, wait, aren't you the guy? Aren't you the girl? Like, you know, it's like from third grade who drew all that manga that I liked when I was a kid. It's like, yeah, you know, it's like, hey, recently, like, you know, I stopped, but I'll pick it back up again, and you know, when I get serialized, you can be my assistant, and you know, things would be better. But in reality, that's not what happened. And at the end, essentially, she kind of like just moves on, and there's this, like, the last few pages of this manga, like they really speak to me, because it says, you know, to begin with, I don't even like drawing manga. It's not fun. The entire process is a hassle. It's super unglamorous too. You can draw all day long and still be nowhere near finished. Really, I'd just be better off just sticking to reading manga. I shouldn't draw it. Then why do you draw, Fujino? And then basically, you know, Fujino just remembers essentially just making a manga, giving a draft to Kimoto, and then Kimoto is just like happy. She's just like, it's amazing. And basically it goes back to like all the time she spent with Kimoto. And she moves on and she goes back to drawing. And basically Look Back is like I said in the beginning, this is a more introspective work. This is a more introspective manga than Fire Punch and Chainsaw Man. I could be wrong. I haven't read Chainsaw Man. Like, I've only read bits and pieces, and I never really read Fire Punch. But this is kind of like a manga that kind of like speaks to me, seeing as how like I am an artist, and you know, it's like basically it's like Tatsuki Fujimoto, if that's his actual name. Let me just check. I'm on the shit. I am on the internet. It is. I think yeah. Yeah, I think it's Tatsuki Fujimoto. Basically, it's through this manga, he's essentially just he's expressing his own insecurities of being an artist. And honestly, I have tons of insecurities when it comes to being an artist, because I've been trying to become a comic artist for years of my life now, and all I can ever see are the flaws inherent within the American industry. Just the pay is pretty bad. The business practices are abysmal. Not to mention, it's like when you were a kid, you'd think, hey, drawing comics would be sick. Drawing Spider-Man for a living, that'd be fucking cool. But you know, it's not that simple. It's not that fun. Matter of fact, like, just there are dozens and dozens of stories of artists being in publication, but getting in publication deals and not exactly reading the contract or getting a lawyer and having them just be screwed over. It's happened so much that it's probably capable of just becoming a meme now. Not to mention, it's not like the grass isn't greener on the other side. Like, basically, I believe that being a mangaka is what is described as being like kind of like volunteer like enslavement, like being a voluntary slave. You know? And not to mention animators, like they kind of get a bad deal too, and they do it not because it's like it has like any good job benefits or the pay as well. They do it because they're passionate about it. They love it so much. And that's kind of like why I draw. And I think, I don't know, it's like, when it comes to this manga, I think it's like one of his best works, because it essentially just like it's kind of like an in-depth look on why a person would ever want to pursue a career making comics, or like making stories, or like storytelling in general. Yeah, it's a really good book, or one shot. Read it any way you can. This is JJR Art. I made a video and I hope you liked it.